Every case holds secrets. Some are solved, but many remain lost in time. When the evidence fades, we open the true cold files.
Lisa Renee Irwin was born on November 11, 2010 in Kansas City, Missouri, to her parents, Deborah Bradley and Jeremy Irwin. She was the youngest child in her family, joining two older brothers in the household. Lisa's early life was defined by the ordinary routines of a young family navigating work, child care, and the responsibilities of raising three children under one roof. The family home, located in Kansas City, would later become central to the investigation into her disappearance. At the time, Lisa was only 11 months old, a stage in life marked by rapid development and constant care. Her parents were balancing demanding roles. Jeremy worked as an electrician, often taking on jobs at unusual hours, while Deborah managed much of the home life. Lisa's presence in the household symbolized the youngest chapter of the family's story. She shared her home with her two brothers, who were old enough to recall details of the night she vanished, making them indirect witnesses in what followed. This domestic setting, children, parents, and the everyday routines of meals, bedtime, and neighbors stopping by, framed the environment leading up to October 2011. Before tragedy struck, Lisa's life was rooted in this ordinary family world. Understanding her short biography provides the foundation for examining the events that unfolded around her disappearance. On the afternoon of October 3, 2011, the Irwin household followed what seemed like an ordinary routine. At approximately 2:30 p.m., Jeremy Irwin returned home from his job as an electrician. He spent the next several hours caring for the children, giving Deborah Bradley, his partner, a chance to rest. For the family, the day began in a typical fashion, without any signs of the events that would later define it. By 4:45 p.m., Deborah and her brother were captured on store surveillance footage purchasing baby food and boxed wine. While Deborah was away, their neighbor and family friend, Samantha Brando, stopped by the home with her young daughter. During that visit, Samantha briefly checked on baby Lisa, who was in her crib at the time. By 5 p.m., Deborah had returned from the store, resuming her evening at home. Just half an hour later, at 5:30 p.m., Jeremy received a call from his employer requesting that he take an unusual overnight electrical job at a nearby Starbucks. Although night shifts were rare, he accepted, expecting to return home by 10 p.m. That evening, Deborah prepared dinner and placed Lisa in her crib at approximately 6:40 p.m. The evening unfolded quietly. Deborah and Samantha sat on the porch, smoking and drinking, while their children played nearby. By 10:30 p.m., Samantha left, and Deborah's two boys fell asleep in her bed. Before going to sleep herself, Deborah placed 3 deactivated cell phones on the kitchen counter. Later, records revealed an unexplained call made at 11:57 p.m. to a woman named Megan, a person unknown to the family. At approximately 3:30 a.m. on October 4th, 2011, Jeremy Irwin returned home from his overnight electrical shift. The first thing he noticed was the unusual state of the house. Several lights were still on, the front door was unlocked, and a window in the computer room appeared to have been tampered with. These details immediately stood out, as they were not consistent with the way the home was typically left at night. Jeremy moved through the house, expecting to find his family asleep. When he checked the children, he discovered an alarming absence. Baby Lisa was not in her crib. Deborah Bradley, startled awake, joined in the search. The couple quickly moved through the rooms of their home, but Lisa was nowhere to be found. In a moment filled with hesitation, they avoided searching the backyard. Deborah later admitted she was too afraid of what she might discover outside. The absence of Lisa was compounded by the odd condition of the home. The lights, the unlocked door, and the disturbed window suggested that something unusual had taken place during the night. Their realization marked the beginning of the investigation and the point where suspicion began to grow. Not long after, a witness came forward. They reported seeing a man walking down the street around 4 a.m., carrying a baby. The night was notably cold, and the baby appeared underdressed for the weather. This account added urgency to the already dire situation. These first hours after Lisa's disappearance would shape the public's understanding of the case and the trajectory of law enforcement's response. The investigation into Lisa Irwin's disappearance began immediately after her parents reported her missing. Law enforcement canvassed the neighborhood and began gathering potential witness statements. One significant account came from a local resident who reported seeing a man walking down the street with a baby at approximately 12:15 a.m. The detail that drew particular attention was the baby's inadequate clothing. On that cold October night, the infant appeared underdressed for the weather, a detail that heightened suspicions about whether this child could have been Lisa. As the search widened, investigators encountered another troubling incident. Only days after Lisa's disappearance, a nearby dumpster fire drew police attention. Inside, authorities discovered evidence of burnt baby clothing. While the items did not match the outfit Lisa had been wearing on the night she went missing, law enforcement did not dismiss the possibility that the garments might still have been connected to her. The discovery added yet another layer of uncertainty to an already complex investigation. Attention also turned to the family's missing cell phones. Deborah Bradley had placed 3 phones on the counter before going to bed, and all were later reported missing. Phone records revealed that one of these devices had been used at 11:57 p.m. to attempt a call to a woman named Megan. Neither Deborah nor Jeremy knew anyone by that name, and investigators were unable to establish a direct link between the family and the recipient. During questioning, inconsistencies emerged in Deborah's statements. She admitted to drinking heavily that evening, raising questions about her memory and reliability. Investigators noted that her shifting account complicated efforts to establish a precise timeline, fueling growing scrutiny of the circumstances surrounding the night Lisa disappeared. Between October 17th and October 19th, 2011, law enforcement intensified its investigation into Lisa Irwin's disappearance. The FBI, working alongside Kansas City police, executed a detailed search warrant at the Irwin residence. The operation was extensive, involving both physical searches and the use of cadaver dogs. During the search, one of the dogs alerted to the scent of possible human remains near the bed belonging to Deborah Bradley. Although this alert drew significant attention, no physical remains were recovered during the search. Investigators seized a number of household items for forensic testing. These included a multicolor comforter, a pair of purple shorts, a Disney-themed character shirt, a glowworm toy, and a Cars-themed blanket. Additional evidence gathered included rolls of tape, a tape dispenser, and multiple carpet samples. Authorities also expanded their search outside the home, digging in sections of the backyard to rule out possible concealment of evidence. The collected items were intended to provide further clarity, though none produced conclusive results linking directly to Lisa's disappearance. At the same time, Deborah's interactions with investigators became increasingly scrutinized. She later reported being told she had failed a polygraph test, though some accounts suggest this may have been an interrogation tactic rather than a confirmed result. Her earlier admission of consuming alcohol heavily on the night Lisa vanished, combined with inconsistencies in her recollections, led investigators to focus growing suspicion on her role. Despite the attention, no charges were filed against either parent. This stage of the investigation reflected the depth of law enforcement's efforts. While their searches produced potential leads and raised suspicions, the absence of definitive evidence left the case unresolved, keeping investigators searching for alternative explanations. In the weeks following Lisa Irwin's disappearance, public attention intensified. Deborah Bradley and Jeremy Irwin appeared on television programs, speaking about their daughter's case and emphasizing their cooperation with law enforcement. These appearances allowed the parents to share their perspective, but they also placed the family under constant public scrutiny. Their willingness to engage with national media became a significant part of the case's visibility. During this period, an anonymous benefactor stepped forward, offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to Lisa's recovery. Private investigators were also hired to assist in pursuing leads. The involvement of outside investigators signaled both the family's desperation for answers and the national significance the case had quickly taken on. Legal representation for the family, however, underwent notable shifts. Attorney Cindy Short, who initially represented the parents, later stepped away due to conflicts with another member of the legal team. These changes created an impression of instability at a time when the family was already facing immense challenges. Controversy also emerged when Deborah and Jeremy were criticized for limiting investigators' access to their sons. Although the boys were eventually interviewed again, the delay contributed to suspicions that the parents were not fully cooperating. Media outlets highlighted these issues, with some reports framing the parents as withholding information. Despite this portrayal, Deborah and Jeremy continued to insist that they were doing everything possible to bring Lisa home. In May 2012, the case took an unexpected turn when Jeremy Irwin's debit card was reported to have been used on a British website that specialized in false identity documents, including birth certificates. The purchase, amounting to just over $69, raised speculation about whether the card might have been linked to an attempt to conceal or create an identity for a child. Despite the unusual discovery, investigators were unable to establish any direct connection between the fraudulent activity and Lisa's disappearance. The following year, in October 2013, international attention focused briefly on the case once again. Authorities in Greece discovered a young girl living in a Romani camp whose appearance drew comparisons to Lisa. Initial reports generated widespread speculation, but genetic testing later confirmed that the girl was not Lisa Irwin. Although this lead ultimately proved unrelated, it underscored the global scope of the search efforts. In the years that followed, Lisa's story continued to resurface through various media outlets. In 2016, her case was profiled on the podcast The Vanished, which examined the details of her disappearance and its lingering mysteries. Despite extensive searches, witness accounts, forensic analysis, and national coverage, Lisa's disappearance remains unsolved. Law enforcement has continued to stress the possibility that she may still be alive, leaving the case officially open. Following Lisa's case, meet Crystal. Crystal Ann Arensdorf was born on February 1st, 1981, in Dubuque, Iowa. She grew up surrounded by a large family that included 6 full and half siblings, and despite frequent moves during her childhood, she maintained a strong bond with those closest to her. Family members recall that Crystal cherished time spent together, often holding on tightly to the connections that gave her comfort and stability. Those who knew Crystal describe her as kind, genuine, and deeply caring. Friends and relatives often spoke of her infectious smile, which seemed to brighten any room she entered. Crystal loved children and was known to take extra time, ensuring the happiness of younger kids around her. Her willingness to help others defined much of her personality, making her someone people naturally trusted and admired. Childhood stories illustrate her warmth and playful spirit. She was known to babysit for neighbors, and during summer months she and friends set up lemonade stands, enjoying simple moments of laughter and companionship. One of her closest friends, Dawn Walsh, remembered their matching bicycles, Dawn's pink and Crystal's purple, which they rode together nearly every day. Crystal's sister, Shawn, recalled how she always went out of her way to consider other people's feelings, even when it meant putting her own aside. At the time of her disappearance, Crystal was living in Dubuque with her boyfriend, Tim, and working for a house cleaning business. At just 20 years old, she was beginning to carve out her path in life, full of promise and possibility. On the evening of July 3rd, 2001, Crystal Arensdorf joined her sister Jennifer to watch the annual fireworks display near the Mississippi River. The sisters attended a gathering at a friend's home, enjoying the celebration before parting ways later in the evening. During this time, Crystal called her boyfriend Tim, and the two reportedly had a disagreement. Though the nature of the dispute is unclear, it set the tone for the remainder of Crystal's night. After the fireworks ended, Crystal and Jennifer decided to head to Knickers Saloon, a popular bar in downtown Dubuque, Iowa. There, they met up with several friends. Witness accounts later confirmed that Crystal made plans with bartender Robert Moots to share a cab to East Dubuque, Illinois, after his shift so they could continue visiting bars. As the night unfolded, Jennifer grew concerned about her sister drinking and driving. To ensure Crystal's safety, she took possession of her car, leaving Crystal at Knickers with the expectation she would ride with Moots after closing. By approximately 2 a.m. on July 4th, Crystal was last seen inside Knickers Saloon. Her belongings, including her car keys and money, were left behind at the establishment. When Moots finished cleaning around 2:30 a.m., he later stated that Crystal was nowhere to be found. The following morning, Jennifer immediately noticed something was wrong when Crystal did not return to pick up her car. Alarmed, the family attempted to report her missing, but were told they had to wait 24 hours. Unwilling to waste time, they began knocking on doors and searching for her themselves, sensing immediately that something was terribly wrong. In the immediate aftermath of Crystal Arensdorf's disappearance, authorities launched an extensive investigation across Dubuque and the surrounding tri-state area. Search teams combed through fields, wooded patches, and secluded areas, while law enforcement scoured garages, basements, and other potential hiding places. Bodies of water were searched, and cadaver dogs were brought in to detect any sign of Crystal. Despite these concentrated efforts, no physical evidence emerged to explain what had happened to the young woman. Investigators worked to piece together her final hours by interviewing every patron present at Knickers Saloon on the night of July 3rd into July 4th. Polygraph examinations were administered to multiple individuals in an effort to verify statements and eliminate possible inconsistencies. Among the first examined was Crystal's boyfriend Tim, who had argued with her shortly before she vanished. After thorough questioning and investigative follow-up, he was officially cleared of suspicion by October 2001. With Tim eliminated, focus gradually shifted toward two men who had been at Knickers that night, brothers Stephen and David Peacock. By 2002, both were questioned and subjected to polygraph testing. Authorities also conducted a search of David's vehicle, looking for potential clues. While the brothers were never charged, they were regarded as persons of interest. Investigators noted that individuals treated as suspects often reveal less information, complicating efforts to determine what they truly knew. Despite hundreds of leads, the case stalled. Investigators acknowledged the limitations they faced in 2001, including the lack of widespread traffic cameras and digital surveillance, tools that might have clarified Crystal's movements. Through the early 2000s, the mystery of her disappearance remained unsolved, with lingering questions left unanswered. In 2015, Crystal Arensdorf's case received renewed attention when Iowa Cold Cases reported a significant tip. The information alleged that David Peacock, one of the brothers considered persons of interest, had borrowed his sister's car on the night of Crystal's disappearance. The same tip also included reported aliases and employment details for both David and Stephen Peacock. While this did not lead to immediate breakthroughs, it revived interest in the case and underscored the importance of re-examining potential leads. By 2019, law enforcement took a more organized approach by establishing a dedicated cold case squad. This collaboration involved the Dubuque Police Department, the Dubuque County Sheriff's Department, and the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation. The creation of this team allowed investigators to review Crystal's case files with fresh eyes, combing through evidence already collected and re-interviewing individuals connected to the night she vanished. Special attention was given to narrowing the pool of people at Knickers Saloon that evening. Authorities highlighted that approximately 12 to 15 individuals present during the critical time frame might still hold answers. The renewed efforts extended further in 2020, when law enforcement, joined by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, conducted a search of Knickers Saloon. Details of what was discovered, if anything, were not publicly disclosed, but the search symbolized a continued commitment to finding the truth. Detectives David Randall and Paul Evendar expressed optimism, noting that leads continue to surface even decades later. Their confidence reflects how persistence, modern collaboration, and advancing investigative techniques sustain the effort to resolve Crystal's disappearance. The disappearance of Crystal Arensdorf left a lasting mark on her family, friends, and the wider community. Her siblings have often spoken about the weight of unanswered questions and the grief they continue to carry. Jennifer, her sister, recalls the guilt of not staying with Crystal the night she vanished, a memory that has never faded. In the days and years that followed, Jennifer threw herself into the search, knocking on doors, posting flyers, and refusing to give up hope. Michael, her brother, has emphasized the importance of remembering Crystal as more than a missing person. To him, she was beautiful inside and out, someone whose life should be remembered for its joy rather than its mystery. Sean, another sister, has shared how deeply Crystal cared for others, always putting people's feelings before her own, and how difficult it has been to live without her presence. Friends also carry their memories. Dawn Walsh remembers summers spent laughing with Crystal, their matching bicycles symbolizing a carefree bond. Nicole Adorpaul recalls idolizing her, and later honoring her memory through a tattoo portrait, surrounded by meaningful symbols reflecting Crystal's lasting influence. Their mother, Barb, has admitted that she thinks of Crystal every single day, often wondering who her daughter might have become had she reached her 40s. Community efforts have kept her case visible, from anniversary billboards to renewed calls for information. Law enforcement continues urging the public to come forward, reminding everyone that even the smallest detail could help solve the case. Our next cold case, Denise Pflum. Denise Pflum was born on January 14, 1958, in Connersville, Indiana, to her parents Judy and David Pflum. For the couple, her birth carried a weight of deep emotion and relief, as they had endured the heartbreak of 3 failed pregnancies before Denise arrived. Her safe delivery made her their long-awaited miracle child, a blessing that changed their lives. Not long after, the family grew again with the birth of a second daughter, Jenny, who Denise adored and cared for deeply. Connersville, the small Midwestern town where she grew up, was modest and hard-working. Its economy relied largely on local manufacturing and retail, and while it was not a place of excitement, it was a community that valued stability, tradition, and family ties. In this environment, Denise thrived. She became known for her charisma and warmth. Friends, neighbors, and classmates described her as approachable, kind, and endlessly outgoing. Denise was talented in many areas of life, balancing academics and athletics with ease. She played 4 sports: track, volleyball, basketball, and softball, while also excelling in the classroom. Her leadership extended beyond sports as she served as the treasurer of the science club, admired for her responsibility and intelligence. By her senior year, Denise was preparing for the next chapter. She planned to study microbiology at Miami University in Ohio, and her dreams included securing a track scholarship. With graduation and prom just weeks away, her future looked bright, full of promise, and full of possibility. On March 27, 1986, Denise Pflum spent the evening with her friend Kim. It was spring break, a time when many students in Connersville, Indiana, looked for ways to celebrate. For Denise and Kim, that night's plan was a bonfire party, a gathering that promised music, friends, and the energy of a small-town crowd. Before heading there, the two stopped at the Glenwood Inn, where they purchased beer. With that, they continued on, eventually arriving at a rural farm where around 100 people had gathered. The atmosphere of the bonfire was lively, but typical for high school students of the era. Those who recalled seeing Denise that night said she appeared to be enjoying herself. She mingled, talked, and laughed like any other teenager on the verge of graduation. Nothing about her demeanor struck witnesses as unusual or concerning. There was, however, one unconfirmed detail. Some said she may have kissed a boy named John during the party, though this claim was never verified and remains uncertain. One critical fact stands out from that night. Denise lost her purse while at the bonfire. The mistake seemed small at the time, but it would become significant in the events that followed. Earlier in March, Denise had ended a 3-year relationship with her boyfriend, Sean McClung. Friends described Sean as possessive, and although the breakup left Denise shaken, she had also grown more social. The bonfire marked one of her last known public appearances before her disappearance. The morning after the bonfire party, March 28, 1986, began like any other day in the Pflum household. Denise spoke with her mother, Judy, mentioning that she had misplaced her purse at the gathering the night before. Determined to retrieve it, she made plans to drive back to the site. Before leaving, Denise reached out to a few friends to see if they would accompany her, but no one was available. She ultimately decided to go alone. At approximately 12:30 p.m., Denise left home in her cream-colored 1981 Buick. On her way out, she exchanged a few words with a neighbor, an interaction that would later become the final confirmed sighting of her. What seemed like a simple errand, one that should have taken no more than half an hour, was the beginning of a mystery that still endures. Around 2 p.m., a friend later told Denise's mother that she thought she saw her at the Fashion Bug clothing store. Yet, this account quickly became uncertain when the clothing described did not match the outfit Judy recalled her daughter wearing earlier that day. The possible sighting could not be confirmed. As evening approached and Denise failed to return, her parents' concern grew. By nightfall, they reported her missing to the police. The following day, her car was found abandoned on Tower Road, near a barn east of Glenwood. It was locked and showed no immediate signs of struggle. A farmer told investigators the vehicle had been parked there since shortly after noon the previous day, raising suspicions that foul play had occurred. When Denise Pflum did not return home on March 28, 1986, her parents reported her missing. The initial response from authorities, however, was far from urgent. Police dismissed her disappearance as the actions of a typical teenager, suggesting she had likely run off or would return on her own. For Judy and David Pflum, this lack of urgency was devastating. Refusing to wait, they began organizing their own search efforts, reaching out to family, friends, and neighbors for help. As pressure from the community grew, law enforcement gradually increased their involvement. Search teams were eventually deployed, scouring the area by foot and by air. Planes circled overhead, while local and state officials walked fields and roadsides. Yet, despite the scale of these efforts, there was no sign of Denise. The absence of footprints, evidence, or witnesses left investigators frustrated, while the Pflum family remained without answers. Compounding the tragedy were the serious flaws in the official investigation. Lead investigator Ted McQuinley, who was also Denise's father's cousin, handled the case with alarming informality. He kept no written records of his interviews, relying instead on memory. Conversations with potential witnesses were casual, often ending once someone denied involvement. Instead of pursuing systematic leads, McQuinley leaned on psychics for guidance. Critical steps, such as obtaining phone records or even searching Denise's bedroom, were never completed. As days turned into weeks, rumors spread quickly through Connorsville, but no solid evidence emerged. The missteps in those early weeks would leave a lasting impact. Many now believe that the failure to act decisively and professionally in 1986 is a major reason Denise's case remains unsolved nearly 4 decades later. As investigators struggled with limited evidence, suspicion soon turned towards several individuals connected to Denise Pflum. At the forefront was her former boyfriend, Sean McClung. The two had dated for 3 years before Denise ended the relationship in early March 1986. While he claimed the breakup was amicable, friends described Sean as controlling and possessive. His behavior after her disappearance deepened suspicions. Sean failed to participate in search efforts, distancing himself at a time when genuine concern would have been expected. More troubling, he provided police with an alibi, claiming he had gone fishing the day Denise vanished. Investigators later discovered that none of the individuals he named could confirm his story, suggesting that he had fabricated the account. Additional weight was added when letters Denise wrote to a pen pal surfaced. In them, she expressed fear and guilt following the breakup, revealing emotional strain and unease surrounding her relationship with Sean. Another major suspect was Benny Johnson. In the years after Denise's disappearance, Johnson repeatedly drew attention through his behavior. His cousin, Randy Cates, claimed that he and Johnson had picked Denise up, taken her to a building, and killed her after she threatened to expose their drug use. According to this account, her body was even fed to hogs. Benny's girlfriend at the time recalled seeing an unusual and alarming amount of blood inside a cabin shortly after Denise disappeared. Though police eventually searched the cabin, the investigation occurred years later, leaving little to find. Complicating matters was the Johnson family's wealth and influence in the community, leading many to fear that crucial details had been overlooked or buried. Finally, suspected serial killer Larry Hall included Denise's name on a list of supposed victims. However, Hall was known for false confessions, and investigators remained doubtful of his connection. With each theory unproven, the truth of what happened to Denise Pflum remains unresolved. By 2018, more than 3 decades had passed since Denise Pflum vanished, yet the case still weighed heavily on her family and the Connorsville community. That year, renewed momentum came when Detective Stacy Reese took on the investigation. Reese carried a personal connection. Her own mother had once babysat Denise, and the story of her disappearance had remained vivid throughout her life. With determination, she began re-examining the case and pressing leads that earlier investigators had either ignored or mishandled. Reese organized fresh searches using modern resources unavailable in the 1980s. Cadaver dogs were deployed to areas of interest, including a pond long suspected of concealing evidence. At one point, dogs detected the scent of possible human remains, giving investigators and the family renewed hope. However, after extensive digging and examination, no remains were uncovered. Though disheartening, the effort demonstrated a new level of seriousness that contrasted sharply with the failures of the initial investigation. Then, in 2020, a stunning development emerged. Denise's former boyfriend, Sean McClung, who had moved to Arizona years earlier and accumulated a record of arrests, was once again in Indiana. During this time, he confessed to killing Denise. According to his account, an argument escalated, and he placed his hands on her, leading to her death. Authorities acted quickly, arresting McClung for voluntary manslaughter. The hope was that he could finally lead them to Denise's body. Yet, the breakthrough unraveled. McClung was unable to pinpoint a burial site, changing locations and appearing confused. Soon after, he recanted his confession, claiming it had not been genuine. In September 2020, he died in custody from illness. His death left the Pflum family devastated, their brief glimmer of hope extinguished, and their search for closure still incomplete. Nearly 4 decades after Denise Pflum left her home on March 28, 1986, her disappearance remains an unsolved mystery. Despite numerous leads, rumored confessions, and years of speculation, no one has ever been convicted in connection to the case. Most painfully, her body has never been found. Her family continues to search for answers with the same determination that began the day she vanished. They have offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the discovery of her remains or the arrest of those responsible. For them, the absence of closure has been a lifelong burden, though they refuse to let Denise's story fade into silence. Authorities still classify the case as active, and cold case investigators periodically return to the evidence. Each review carries the possibility that new technology, fresh interviews, or overlooked details might reveal what has been hidden for so long. While definitive progress has stalled, the willingness of law enforcement to revisit the case demonstrates its continuing importance. Community support has also played a central role in keeping Denise's memory alive. These efforts underscore the resilience of a family and a community that has never stopped seeking the truth. Denise's case reflects the devastating impact of early investigative failures, but it also stands as a testament to perseverance. Her story continues, waiting for the day when long-awaited answers finally emerge.